Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the O'Rourke Report. We're going to talk about Potomac, episode number 3 of the reunion, which, surprisingly to me, was interesting for several reasons. And then we're going to go on to Married to Medicine. Also, very interesting, very interesting. I thought so. The interaction between the reactions to certain actions. Okay, let's get to Potomac. If you remember, Potomac had like a cliffhanger. What did TJ say to Eddie when they FaceTimed? And we find out fairly quickly that the women are called back on stage. The cameras are going back up. The men are not going to be coming out, which is unusual. Usually, we always have a small portion of one of the reunion shows, not a small portion, usually half of an episode at least, dedicated to the significant others. In this case, they're men. And so anyway, we find out that there is a scandal in brewing. Andy hears the women tittering. And apparently Eddie FaceTimed TJ, which, as you recall, was the boyfriend of Stacy, the celibate, very Christian boyfriend of Stacy. Stacy has earlier in the reunion stated that she and TJ are no longer together. They ended amicably and it's over. Well, we find out from this TJ, who a lot of the audience had already formed a pretty solid opinion on TJ, that he wasn't really a nice guy, that when he wasn't really aware that the cameras were catching some of the things that he was saying. In fact, I'd say he had a real mean streak. But boy, oh boy, he's smiling at the camera whenever he can. But as soon as the camera's off of him, all of a sudden we see perhaps the real TJ. Well, anyway, TJ tells Eddie that he was never really Stacy's boyfriend, that she just paid him to be on the show. Which, I don't know. We don't know a lot about Stacy, and I'm going to go into that in a minute. But I don't for a minute buy that that she was paying him a la Kenya, year one Kenya on Atlanta with her boyfriend Walter, which we find out on Watch What Happens Live, that Walter is the nephew of Cecil, Dr. Simone's husband on Married to Medicine. Okay, I'll do the math for you again. Cecil, the husband of Dr. Simone on Married to Medicine, his nephew is Walter, who was the boyfriend year one Kenya paid to be on the show with her. I just thought that was hilarious. What a very small world Atlanta must be. So anyway, we find this, we open up Potomac with this reveal that Eddie really passes on the gossip that TJ really threw Stacy under the bus in a big way. And say what you will about Stacy, when you throw a bomb at her, she does not lose her composure. I mean, she controls her composure. She is able to express shock and disbelief that anybody would say this about her. Yet at no time does she get angry and name calling or anything like that. She plays the straight backed Christian girl that she's decided is going to be her TV persona, and she doesn't deviate. I'm much more inclined to believe Stacy's version than I am of TJ's, because we were privy to these moments, these candid moments that we saw that TJ maybe is probably not a very nice guy, that TJ's probably got a temper and maybe is a little nasty as well. By nasty, I mean he says mean things. I should use the word mean more. He's mean. So anyway, the other women are besides themselves with joy, and not one of them would ever admit this, but besides themselves the joy that they get something to ridicule Stacy about. Nobody more happy about this turn of events than Ashley Darby, who starts making cracking Venmo jokes, and Giselle is going right along with her. I mean, God, ugh. You're really going to take that much glee in somebody being humiliated? There's something wrong with that behavior. There's something systemically wrong with that behavior, ladies. I don't know if you want to analyze yourself as to what makes you take such joy and glee from somebody else's embarrassment and hurt. You're like little Dementors. You're all feeding on it. God, but that's what you did. Another reason to say that the Homic ladies are maybe just a little down market in the intelligence department. Maybe that was a low blow crack on my part. Let me rescind it. Okay, took it back. As I mentioned in earlier episodes, the women. Okay, so we open with that. We open with all the women gleefully jumping all over this embarrassment for Stacy. But and let me just say one thing while I'm on it. And I forget exactly where this came in during the hour episode. But this is a real pet peeve with me, and I only hear it on certain shows, certainly not all the Bravo shows, but when someone says, don't, the expression should be, don't spread lies about me. What they insist upon saying is, don't lie on me. Don't lie on me. Okay, they're both prepositions, but on and about have two different meanings. On means to actually be touching, to be in contact with something. About is concerning a particular subject. So about is the correct preposition to use, not on. Stop using it. You sound like an idiot. Any cast member who happens to be hearing this, think about it before you say somebody's lying on me. Nobody's lying on you unless they're actually lying on you, on top of you. They can be lying about you. Okay, have we got that all set? Good, thank you. Goodbye. All right. Again, I mentioned this before, all the women are in these dresses that look like they're made with jagged pieces of mirror or crystal or plastic, whatever, and they all have their boobs squished up to their heads. This plastic is digging into their skin. Wendy, through the whole show, had this huge crease in one of her. It's just torturous what they were doing to their boobs and to their skin, and they were miserable toward the end of the reunion, trying to get some comfort out of these dresses that were actually digging into their skin and hurting them, or they appeared to be. Okay, what is this? Okay, so let's go on to what the last half of the show really dealt about, and that was talking about Karen. And we found out some very interesting things. And I know they've been alluded to in the past, which makes me say, if so many of them, so many of the cast members saw this behavior, why weren't they speaking up on it? I mean, they didn't waste a second in jumping all over Stacy and embarrassing her. Why isn't this, why is this coming forth as a fact at this point in the game when Karen Huger has, as I'm sure everybody knows, Chloe, my little Chloe bean, come on, movie moves. That's a good girl. Why are we just finding out now that Karen was known to, was, it appears to be, it was well known that Karen would day drink. She would find a bar in, if you know, maybe, you know, like obscure type of bars, like a bar in a bowling alley, things like that, and she would plop herself down and drink until she was drunk day after day. It was well known. So Karen has been living a massive here's was the disturbing part to me. Karen's delusion is a lot deeper than I thought. If indeed she has been doing that, yet she's been going in front of the camera now for 8, 10 years, claiming and playing this persona, this grand ambassador. Oh, which makes joke. The ambassador of Surrey County. She has been playing a persona completely opposite, in opposition to what's really going on in her life. Hold on a second. Give me a quick second here. Okay, thank you. All right, then, Miss Cloud, get over here. So, yeah, it's a little disturbing. A little disturbing. Yeah, and they talked about the video, the police cam video of the accident, and her in the car with one of the officers being driven to jail, I guess, for booking. And the subject was at the reunion, how is it once she saw that video that she didn't play? I mean, she was offered a plea of 6 months house arrest and something else, blah, 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 something a lot lighter than what she ended up getting, which was no, I think the maximum 2 years, and the judge did suspend 1 year, but still, she's facing 365 days before any good behaviors factored in, and she was literally led away that day when sentencing came in. She was led away. It's got to be horrific for her. Absolutely horrific. And as the ladies point out, she's not allowed to wear any of her wigs, her makeup, her glam squad. This is either going to be the making of her and the breaking of the delusion, or it's not. I don't know that she's going to be able to turn it around. Like I cited Martha Stewart, the last time we did anything on Potomac. I don't know if she's got that. It's going to be interesting to see. I hope she does. She doesn't deserve. She deserves to solve whatever this drinking problem is. She deserves to figure out a solution for it, because she's had three. This is her fourth DUI. She is now doing jail time, and at one point, does she ever make the admission that, oh my God, alcohol is not worth it? I mean, and it's not a question, and when does she ever admit, it's not a question of me balancing my medications and my alcohol. It's a question of getting rid of alcohol and probably half of your medications. So they had some very serious discussions, all of the women, about what Karen is facing, and what Karen's future will look like. And because she is, if you have to pick the dominant person of each cast, she's the dominant person. She's not the grand dame. She's not everything she thinks she is. She's delusional there. She's deeply delusional. But she certainly deserves to get this alcohol out of her life, and I hope she does. Okay, let's go on to our married medicine, who continued. They continued what they had started last week, which I talked to you about, which was dissecting what happened on the sandbar. How can they fix it? How can they bring this group back together? Their goal is to see if they can have Quad and her mate, King, in the same room with Dr. G and Sweet Tea, Quad's ex-husband, Dr. G, and his new wife, and not have any sort of repeat of what they had at the sandbar, or indeed what they put up with down in Key West. And the adults were in charge. Again, the adult males like Dr. Jean and Eugene and Dr. Scott. They pulled Gregory aside. They had guys night or day over, I forget whose house it was. I think it was Scott's house, Dr. Contessa and Dr. Scott's house. And this Gregory is really, really hurt. He really feels that he was wronged by Quad, and he's not of the mind to want to. In fact, he has put out a an assault complaint. There's something called simple assault, where there doesn't have to be any physical contact, but there has to be a charging, aggressive approaching of the other person. And he's put through a police report on that. And the other ones, which will preclude Dr. Gregory and Sweet Tea being in the same room as Quad and King, which is now forcing the group as a whole to take sides, and they don't want to take sides. They want to see if these two warring groups can't resolve it. And really, the whole episode is dedicated toward that. And at one point, I think, who is it? Tanya is oh yeah, Tanya came up with a real cute idea. She wants to. She's kind of enamored with all thing Bridgerton, and she wants to do a Regency ball, and she wants everyone to take dancing lessons, and she wants to capitalize on the multiracial storytelling that is Bridgerton, which I think is fabulous. I always thought it was fabulous. I love the fact that they don't mention anybody's color on a Bridgerton. It's just a story of a bunch of people in Regency England. It doesn't matter what level of what is it, melatonin in the skin. Do I have that right, or is that the sleeping thing? God, I gotta hold on. Let me get it right. What an idiot. Yes, I was an idiot. It's melanin, which is one of the reasons I really like Bridgerton. So anyway, Tanya wants to do this, and she wants to get this situation resolved with the Quan's party and Sweet Tea's party, or Dr. G's party and King's party. So she goes and she has a lunch, and I forget who else was on the lunch, but they had lunch with Sweet Tea. And basically, the conversation with Sweet Tea is, Sweet Tea, are you and Dr. G able to have a nice evening with everybody without having it devolve into a fight? It's not accusing, it wasn't accusatory to Sweet Tea and Dr. G as though they were the aggressors. They weren't the aggressors. Not in my mind. I've always said it was because Squad got drunk. But the purpose of Toya is to say, how adult can we get this meeting, and can we depend upon you? And Sweet Tea wouldn't commit. She's not going to speak for her husband, and we'll have to see what happens. And Toya, she listens. She doesn't make any commentary on it, but she listens. Then we cut to, and I forget who had this conversation, but we cut to the conversation with Quad and King. And both of them are very conciliatory. They said, absolutely, we want to do everything to make this right. It wasn't the right thing to do to charge Dr. G. King gets that. He took full ownership of it. In other words, Quad and King are giving the group their assurances that they will do everything uh, to make this a nice evening. And so anyway, as a result, after this whole thing, we Toya makes a decision, because it's clear that she can't get a commitment from Dr. G and Sweet Tea that they're going to behave themselves. Toya is not going to invite them. So that's going to be interesting. That is going to be interesting. Jackie Phaedra pulls out. Phaedra is back on the Atlantic Trail. She doesn't need these married to medicine women anymore. She doesn't even pretend that she's interested in anything Jackie has to say. And but Jackie, again, is the right person to deal with Phaedra on this, because they're both a very similar intellectual level. And I told you that Walter, season one Kenya's paid for boyfriend, is Cecil's nephew, which I think is the best. Okay. All right. Well, I think that's all I have for today. Curious to see what's going to happen next on Married to Medicine. How is the news going to go over with Dr. G and Sweet Tea that they're not available? They're not going to be invited to Latoya's Bridgerton night because of the reasons I just told you. And we're done with Potomac. We're done with Potomac for the year, and we're just going to have to wait and see for next season how this is all going to shake out with Karen, because it's a sad story. There's you got that, you're doing that type of boozing, day boozing, sitting in seedy bars, just pounding it back. There's a problem. There's a real big problem. So anyway, oh, I always forget to do this. If you like what you see and you want to get notified every time we do another scintillating episode of the O'Rourke Report, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, boop, and you'll be assured notification every time we put out more content. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you here soon on the O'Rourke Report.